That night in the upper room, after the bread was broken and the wine was poured, Jesus did something no gospel ever recorded. He dismissed most of his disciples. Only 3 remained. Peter, John, and James watched as their teacher knelt on the cold stone floor and began to trace something with his finger. Not words, not letters, a symbol, a shape so ancient it predated Moses, predated Abraham, predated the flood itself. And as his finger completed the final line, the oil lamps in the room flickered violently, as if something unseen had suddenly fled from that space. What he drew that night was not meant for the masses. It was not meant for the church that would later form in his name. It was a key, a frequency made visible, a geometric truth that the rulers of this world cannot tolerate. And for 2,000 years, this symbol has been hunted, hidden, and systematically erased from every text the Vatican could reach. But here is what they never anticipated. You are watching this right now, and that is not an accident. If you clicked on this video, something inside you already knows. You have felt it your entire life. That quiet sense that this world operates on rules nobody taught you. That invisible forces seem to interfere whenever you get close to real truth. That certain knowledge has been deliberately kept from you. You are not paranoid. You are not crazy. You are remembering. The symbol you are about to learn tonight has been called many names across centuries. Some called it the seal of protection. Others called it the sign of sovereignty. The Gnostics who walked with Jesus called it something far more direct. They called it the Archon repellent, because that is exactly what it does. When drawn correctly, when activated with the right inner state, this symbol creates a frequency that the Archons, the unseen rulers, the parasitic forces that feed on human energy, simply cannot penetrate. Tonight, you will not only learn what this symbol is, you will learn how to draw it, and everything changes after that. Before you can understand why this symbol holds such power, you need to understand the prison you were born into. Not a prison of walls and bars, a prison of frequency. A prison designed so perfectly that most inmates defend their own cells. The Gnostic texts, discovered at Nag Hammadi in 1945, revealed what the early church desperately tried to destroy. They spoke of a creation story far older and far darker than Genesis as you know it. In these texts, the material universe was not crafted by the supreme source, not by the infinite consciousness the Gnostics called the monad. Instead, this world was fashioned by a lesser being, a blind and arrogant creator who genuinely believed himself to be the only God. They called him the Demiurge. But the Demiurge did not work alone. Beneath him served a hierarchy of rulers, of cosmic prison guards, entities whose very existence depends on one thing: your energy, your attention, your suffering. These are the Archons, and their entire system, everything from the recycling of souls to the manipulation of human thought, exists for a single purpose: to keep you asleep, to keep you generating the low-frequency emotions they feed upon: fear, anger, shame, despair. These are not just feelings to them. These are food. Now here is where it gets uncomfortable. The Archons do not simply wait for you to feel these emotions naturally. They engineer them. They implant thoughts that are not yours. That sudden wave of self-doubt before you attempt something great. That voice telling you that you are not good enough, not worthy, not ready. That strange impulse to sabotage your own progress just when breakthrough is near. These are not always your thoughts. Some of them are broadcasts, frequencies transmitted directly into human consciousness to harvest specific emotional responses. The Gospel of Philip, one of the texts Rome never wanted you to read, says it directly. The Archons wanted to deceive humanity because they saw that human beings had a kinship with what is truly good. They took the names of the good and assigned them to what is not good. So through names, they deceive and bind them to what is not good. Read that again in your mind. They use names, labels, concepts to bind you to what harms you while making you believe it helps you. This is not ancient superstition. This is the most sophisticated control system ever designed, and it has been operating for thousands of years. But there was a glitch in their system, a flaw they never expected. Some souls incarnated here carry something the Archons cannot manufacture and cannot destroy: a divine spark, a fragment of the monad itself, wrapped in flesh but never fully contained by it. The Gnostics called these souls pneumatics, the spirit carriers. And if you are still watching this video, if these words are resonating somewhere deep in your chest rather than just processing in your mind, then you already know which category you fall into. The Archons recognized this threat from the beginning. They knew that certain humans could not be fully controlled, could not be completely hypnotized by the material illusion. So they developed strategies specifically designed for souls like you. Keep them distracted. Keep them doubting themselves. Keep them isolated from others who carry the same spark. And above all, keep them ignorant of the tools that could set them free. This is where Jesus of Nazareth becomes dangerous to the official narrative. The church built in his name would have you believe he came simply to forgive sins through his death. Believe the right things, perform the right rituals, and you will be saved after you die. But the Gnostic Gospels paint a radically different picture. In these texts, Jesus is not primarily a sacrifice. He is a teacher, a revealer of hidden knowledge, a being who descended into this prison specifically to hand the inmates keys. In the Gospel of Thomas, discovered among the Nag Hammadi texts, Jesus says something that would never survive in any mainstream church. He says, "If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you." This is not about belief. This is about activation, about bringing forth something already inside you. And one of the most powerful activation tools he taught was never meant to be spoken. It was meant to be drawn. The symbol we are discussing tonight appears in fragments across multiple traditions, always half-hidden, always encoded. Early Christian art from before the Council of Nicaea contains geometric patterns that later church authorities systematically removed or painted over. The Coptic Christians of Egypt preserved certain marks and seals that Rome declared heretical. The Knights Templar, after their excavations beneath Solomon's Temple, began incorporating specific geometric forms into their architecture and secret ceremonies, forms that led directly to their violent suppression by a pope who called them devil worshippers. Ask yourself a simple question. Why would the most powerful religious institution in human history spend centuries hunting down a shape? Why would they burn libraries, execute scholars, and declare entire populations heretical over geometric knowledge? The answer is as simple as it is disturbing. Because it works. Because the symbol actually does what the ancient texts claim it does. The mechanism is not magical in the way fantasy movies portray magic. It is scientific in ways your current science is only beginning to glimpse. Everything in this universe vibrates at specific frequencies. Your thoughts have frequency. Your emotions have frequency. Your intentions, when focused, generate measurable electromagnetic fields. The HeartMath Institute has documented this extensively. The human heart produces an electromagnetic field that extends several feet beyond the physical body. And that field changes its structure based on your emotional and mental state. Geometry is frozen frequency. Every shape holds a specific vibrational signature. This is why sacred geometry appears across every ancient civilization, why the same patterns emerge independently in cultures that never contacted each other. They were not copying each other, they were discovering the same universal truth. Certain forms amplify certain frequencies. Certain configurations create fields that interact with consciousness in predictable ways. The symbol Jesus drew that night in the upper room was not arbitrary. It was precise. It was a geometric configuration specifically designed to generate a frequency that archonic entities cannot tolerate. Not because it destroys them, but because it operates on a vibrational level they cannot match. It creates a field of coherence, of sovereign awareness, that their parasitic frequency simply
cannot penetrate. Think of it like a radio signal. The Archons broadcast on specific frequencies, low vibration channels of fear and confusion. The symbol, when drawn and activated correctly, shifts your personal field to a frequency so far outside their range that their transmissions cannot reach you. Their implanted thoughts slide off. Their emotional manipulations find no purchase. For the first time, you experience what your mind actually feels like without external interference. The Vatican's suppression of this knowledge follows a trail of blood that spans 2 millennia. When Constantine convened the Council of Nicaea in 325, the official goal was to unify Christian doctrine. But beneath the theological debates, a far more calculated purge was taking place. Texts were being sorted, not by their spiritual truth, but by their threat level to centralized control. Any gospel that empowered the individual, that suggested direct access to the divine without institutional mediation, was marked for destruction. The Gnostic texts were not simply excluded from the Bible, they were hunted. Bishops received explicit orders to burn any copies found in their regions. Possession of these texts became a crime punishable by death. The Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Philip, the Gospel of Mary, the Apocryphon of John. These were not obscure scribblings by fringe groups. Many of these texts were older than the canonical Gospels. Some scholars argue that the Gospel of Thomas contains sayings of Jesus more authentic than anything in Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John. But authenticity was never the criterion. Control was. And among all the suppressed knowledge, the geometric teachings received the most aggressive erasure. Why? Because words can be reinterpreted. Words can be twisted to serve institutional power. But geometry is absolute. A shape either creates a specific frequency or it does not. There is no room for a priest class to position themselves as necessary intermediaries. When you draw the symbol correctly, you access its power directly. No church required, no tithe demanded, no confession necessary. This terrified Rome more than any theological argument ever could. The symbol itself draws from principles that predate Christianity entirely. Jesus, in his years of preparation before his public ministry, traveled far more extensively than the official narrative admits. The gaps in the gospel accounts, the so-called silent years from age 12 to 30, were not silent at all. Esoteric traditions from Egypt to India preserve records of a Hebrew teacher who came to study the ancient mysteries. In Egypt, he would have encountered the geometric principles encoded in the pyramids and temples, shapes designed to interact with human consciousness in precise ways. In the East, he would have learned how specific yantras, sacred diagrams, function as focal points for mental and spiritual energy. What he taught his inner circle was a synthesis, a geometric form that combined the protective encoding of Egyptian sacred science with the consciousness-activating principles of Eastern wisdom, all filtered through his direct connection to the monad, the true source beyond the demiurge's false creation. The symbol has 3 primary components, and each one serves a specific function. The outer boundary represents your sovereign field, the energetic perimeter of your being. This is not metaphorical. Your body generates measurable electromagnetic fields, and these fields have edges, boundaries where your energy meets the external environment. The outer line of the symbol, when drawn with conscious intention, declares and reinforces that boundary. It is a statement written in the language of frequency. I am sovereign. I am whole. Nothing enters this field without my conscious permission. The inner pattern creates coherence. The archonic strategy depends on fragmentation. They need your energy scattered, your attention divided, your sense of self broken into controllable pieces. The internal geometry of the symbol generates a harmonic pattern that draws your fragmented energy back into alignment. It functions like a tuning fork for consciousness. When you focus on this pattern, your scattered frequencies begin to synchronize, to cohere into a unified field that operates far more powerfully than the fragmented state the Archons depend upon. The central point represents the spark, your direct connection to the monad. This is the part of you that was never created by the demiurge, the fragment of infinite consciousness that incarnated into this prison but was never truly imprisoned. The center point of the symbol focuses your attention on this eternal aspect of your being. It reminds you, at a level deeper than thought, that you are not your body, not your circumstances, not your programmed beliefs. You are a point of awareness that existed before this life and will continue after it ends. When these three components combine, they create something the Archons have no answer for. A conscious being, fully aware of their sovereignty, energetically coherent, and connected to the source that transcends this entire false creation. Their implanted thoughts find no fragmented pieces to attach to. Their fear broadcasts encounter a unified field they cannot penetrate. Their system of control, which depends entirely on unconscious and divided subjects, simply fails to function. This is not theory, this is practice, and tonight, you are going to learn exactly how to apply it. The process begins before you ever put pen to paper. Your inner state determines whether you are drawing a symbol or activating a key. If you approach this mechanically, if you simply copy lines without engaging your consciousness, you will create nothing more than ink on paper. The geometry requires your participation. It requires you to bring forth what is within you, exactly as Jesus instructed in the Gospel of Thomas. Find a
space where you will not be interrupted. This is not about ritual or superstition. It is about signal clarity. When your attention is divided, your frequency is scattered. You need enough uninterrupted space to allow your energy to settle into coherence before you begin. Sit comfortably and close your eyes. Do not force any particular state. Simply allow your breath to slow naturally. Place your attention on your heartbeat. Feel it pulsing. This is not just a mechanical pump. Your heart generates the strongest electromagnetic field in your body, a field that extends beyond your skin, beyond the walls of the room you sit in. With each beat, you are broadcasting. The question is whether you are broadcasting consciously or unconsciously. As you rest in awareness of your heart, let a single recognition arise. Not a thought you force, but a knowing you allow. You exist. Before your name, before your history, before every label this world has placed upon you, there is simple existence, pure awareness. This is the spark. This is what the Archons cannot touch and cannot manufacture. When you feel that recognition, not just think it, but feel it in your chest, you are ready. Now, open your eyes, take the pen, and understand that what you are about to draw is not separate from what you just experienced. The symbol is the external expression of the internal state. The geometry and the consciousness are one. Draw the outer circle first. Let your hand move slowly, deliberately. As the line curves back to meet itself, feel the boundary it represents. This is where your sovereign field begins, and the external world ends. Nothing crosses this line without your conscious invitation. Hold that knowing as the circle completes. Inside the circle, draw the equal-armed cross, not tilted, not ornate. Simple. 4 lines meeting at the center, extending to touch the inner edge of the circle. This is the coherence pattern, the 4 directions, the 4 elements, the scattered pieces of your energy being called home. As you draw each line, feel the fragmentation of your daily existence beginning to settle, to organize, to unify. At the center point where the lines meet, place a single dot, small but deliberate. This is the spark. This is you, the real you, the awareness that watches your thoughts, that existed before your first memory and will continue beyond your last breath. As you place this point, let your attention rest there. You are not drawing a symbol. You are remembering who you are. This is the seal. Circle, cross, and center point. So simple that the mind wants to reject it. So powerful that empires have burned libraries to suppress it. Keep this drawing somewhere you will see it daily. Trace it again whenever you feel the familiar interference returning, the sudden doubts, the implanted thoughts, the energy drains that have no visible source. Each time you draw it consciously, you reinforce the frequency. Each time you trace those lines with sovereign
Awareness. You are broadcasting a signal the Archons cannot answer. You were never meant to be a prisoner here. You incarnated carrying a key you simply forgot you possessed. Tonight, you remembered. What you do with that remembering is entirely up to you. If this video found you, share it with someone else who is ready. Not everyone will hear this. Not everyone is meant to. But somewhere in your life, there is another soul trapped in the same confusion you once felt, waiting for exactly this information. Trust your intuition. You already know who they are. Subscribe and stay connected. This is not the last key. There are more. And when you are ready, they will appear. The circle is complete. The cross is drawn. The spark is lit. Now walk forward as what you truly are.